What's up? Easy from Easy on Cars back at you, and today I'm going to tell you what's going on with the EG33 twin turbo Impreza. As of late, I've been driving the car around a little bit. I've had to actually do the commute with it a few times because my other car was having some troubles, but now I've sorted that out and I can put her back in the shed for a few to try to diagnose what's going on with it. So I've had a few things going on. One, the tune's not great. I literally just have not had time to go out and tune it. And the other thing that crops up is the actual hall sensor that I have on the cam has been experiencing some problems during heat soak. And from there, when you try to start the car, it won't start, and that's caused some problems. I got stranded for a little while once, but it's not that big of a deal. I think now I have a plan to go back to VR sensor on just the cam because as the folks on the Megasquirt forums were advising, the type of temperatures that I can see over there are not really suitable for a hall sensor. And if you look up all the specs for hall sensors, you won't see many more over the like 125C range. So I think it's very real that it could get over that temperature for the cam sensor. So I will be converting back to VR and trying my luck at that. Now in the past I did have VR there, and I was just using the factory Subaru VR sensor for the cam position, and what ended up happening was over 4,000 RPM I would start getting sync loss, and sometimes just at idling I would see sync loss, and occasionally the car would have trouble starting when it was cold due to sync loss. So I think I have a handle on what was going on. And I know from others that run the EG33 on the VR sensors solely that I can do it. So I've got a few tricks up my sleeve as far as what I'm going to do. I'll reveal one of them now, which is these coils. I kind of suspect that they might be causing some noise on the just electrical circuit in general. So I know some people on the forums had some problems where there was just a lot of noise being generated from the coils, these specific LS2 coils. So what I think I'll do is the same thing they did, and they put capacitors right near the coils to kind of filter out some of that noise. It's not going to be everything, but I think it might help. So I'll do that preventatively, and then the other thing is I'll just put the VR sensor there. I'll make sure that I have a nice shielded cable, which I can show you. This came directly from DIY Auto Tune. You can buy this shielded cable right from them. So it's important. In the past, we ran a cable that was covered in copper tape, and it actually was pretty good to start. But then over time, the copper tape kind of got all messed up, and there was gaps in it, and parts of it were falling off. So I think that might have contributed to why I had problems in the past with the VR sensor. So we're going to give it another go. I've been told that those type of temperature conditions that you'll experience on the side of the head where the cam is on the EG33 are only suitable for the VR sensor, not a hall sensor. So wish me luck, and yeah, I'll document it for you guys as I replace stuff.
The whole world is an illusion. Whatever you see outside, the mountains, the lakes, people, they are all illusions created by the senses and the mind together.
If you don't have a given connector, you can run wires directly to the leads of the sensor and then fill the back end with epoxy. So today I'm doing more wiring for the VR sensor. I have the shielded cable ran all the way to the ECU and to the side of the cam here. And I am going to try to wire up the VR sensor and change the ECU to be set up for VR once again. So I'll have to pull that out. The other thing that I did yesterday was I put a stretch belt on for my power steering pump. And I've not had power steering yet since I've been driving it around. So this is going to be much improved. And this is a little bit interesting here. So I've been using EJ accessories on my EG33 here. This is an EJ251 alternator from my 2002 Impreza that I had. And this is the power steering bracket and power steering pump from that. So the power steering bracket from the EJ bolts right on to the EG. There's no problems. It's using all the factory bolt holes down there. So the way that I'm doing this is I'm using this 4-ribbed belt, and this pulley actually has 5 ribs, but I'm using the back 4, and with the EJ bracket, this pulley lines up exactly with the back of the crank sprocket or the harmonic balancer. And this part is actually for air conditioning normally, but at least it is on the EJ. I've not really paid much attention to the EG33, but in my case, I'm using this back part for the power steering pump and the front part for my alternator. This is actually a really sketchy alternator belt setup, but it works for now, and I think since I've had some success here with this stretch belt, I think I'll just put a stretch belt on here as well. I'm going to let this run for a little while and see how much I like it, but it's perfectly lined up, and it was actually fairly easy to get on. You can buy the tool right from Amazon or from Gates probably. To it like clamps onto the side here, and the way that they have you do it is you turn the pulley. And I read some comment on Amazon that the guy said, yeah, I used the tool and it was a pile of shit, so I just brute forced it on there. I was about to buy the installer tool when I read that comment, so then I just went ahead and put vice grips on here on the belt, and then I used my wrench to turn the pulley, and it was like a turn and a half, and I pulled the vice grips off, and then one final little bit, and it was on. So I wouldn't be intimidated into buying the tool when it was fairly easy to do it without purchasing the tool. So pretty excited to have power steering. It's been pretty brutal driving this thing around. I've got some more forearm strength because of it, but the driving feels essentially not there when you're just muscling it around everywhere. So let's see how far we can get on this thing today, and hopefully I can take it for a drive later. Alright, now that the ECU is out of the car, we can take it apart, and I'm going to switch the top here, which is, this bottom is basically the Megasquirt 3 board, and the top is the MS3X board. And so there's settings on the top board on the MS3X for Hall or VR, and I'm going to change them back to VR. And I'm going to look up the Megasquirt guide on my PC here, just to make sure that I cover all the bases. I know there's a place on the MS3X where you can calibrate it, the zero crossing, by using your multimeter, and I'm going to look up the instructions to do that right now. Alright, and here on the bottom we have the base Megasquirt board, and this on top is the MS3X. Here are there's a jumper right here to switch, I think it's JP8, jumper 8. I'm going to look that up. And that'll switch between Hall and VR, I believe. And you have these two potentiometers right here. One of them is hysteresis and the other one is zero crossing. I'm going to look that up and figure out how to set that up properly. So let's give that a go. So let's see if it runs any different, better. Wow, that was terrible. So most of today I spent debugging the car after I wired up the VR sensor to the ECU. And I also put in some capacitors right here on between the power and ground on the coils, which I have yet to clean up. And that's to hopefully eliminate noise just in the 12-volt side and the entire electrical system. I've heard people doing that with their mega squirts. So I think it actually helped, because at first I got the engine to start with the VR sensor with a lot of sync loss, and then a little while later I couldn't get the engine to start. And I knew the timing wasn't right, so I played around with the timing because it's significantly different with the VR sensor than with the Hall sensor. Probably like the before top dead center was 676 degrees with the Hall sensor, and with the current setup it's down to, I think it's 643, 642, something like that. And yeah, it would not even start without those capacitors. With the VR sensor, it still has a really hard time starting due to sync loss. So you'll sit there and crank, you'll watch the sync loss gauge go up, and yeah, it's just not good. Once it's running, it idles really good, so that's encouraging. And if you rev it up, I think it's even like 3,000 RPM now, you start to see sync loss. So there are still two potentiometers in the ECU on the MS3X that I can tune to just try to eliminate some of that, but I don't know. I have low expectations now because I've been in this situation before, and that's why I went to Hall sensors. So it is what it is. I'm going to try to make the best of it, but I think that's all for today. So hopefully we'll crack at it again on another day. This episode was a bit of a downer. In the next episode, we'll solve this problem and start thinking about the future. Take it easy, easy on cars.